Assalamualaikum. Today we will study about the role of erythropoietin in RBC's production. So first of all, we'll study that in how many factors can stimulate our RBC's production inside our body. So the factors stimulating the RBC's production are following. We can say that blood loss is the main reason. When we are anemic or there is less blood volumes in our body than normal, then our body stimulates RBC's production. Now the second factor can be the bone marrow dysfunction. If we have a bone marrow aplasia, this can lead to decrease in number of blood cells. When there is decrease in number of blood cells, body stimulates the RBC's production. So blood loss is the main reason, means that if the volume of blood is low, then the body will stimulate RBC's production. Now if there is bone marrow dysfunctioning, bone marrow aplasia, this will cause the remaining bone marrow to cause the RBC's production at greater rates. Now the third factor, this is not a pathological condition, this is a physiological condition, that when we move up to high altitude, there is less oxygen partial pressure. So when there is less oxygen partial pressure, our blood cells, our hematocrit has to be increased to compensate this loss in pressure. So our body stimulates RBC's production. Now the fourth and last factor is that if we are suffering through some diseases like lungs disease or heart diseases, lungs diseases can be we can say many diseases of the lungs which can lead to the hypoventilation, and heart diseases if there is not perfusion. If there is less perfusion, then there can be heart diseases. So these are the various diseases. So in the case of diseases, there can be hypoventilation or low perfusion value. So this can also lead to the low oxygen content inside the body, that will eventually lead to the RBC's production stimulation. So these were the factors that stimulate the RBC's production inside our body. Now, how RBC's production is stimulated in our body? Now the main cause of RBC's production is the production of erythropoietin hormone. What is erythropoietin? Erythropoietin is a glycoprotein. Its molecular weight is 34,000, and when it gets stimulated by low blood volume, means that our glycoprotein is sensitive to the oxygen content in blood and blood volume. So erythropoietin is stimulated when there is low oxygen content or when there is low blood volume in our body. For example, when there is anemia, when there is blood loss, when there is bone marrow dysfunction, or when there is less oxygen, such as in the case of high altitudes physiologically, then there will be the stimulation of erythropoietin. What is erythropoietin? Erythropoietin is a glycoprotein. It's an hormone for the stimulation of RBC's production. So we will study that from where this erythropoietin comes in our body. There are two pairs of kidneys. One pair of kidney and two kidneys. So this kidney, here the fibroblast-like cells are present in the upper medulla and this cortex. Upper medulla and cortex, there are present fibroblast-like cells. These fibroblast-like cells are responsible for the formation of erythropoietin. So erythropoietin is produced from here. When this erythropoietin is produced, when the blood coming towards the kidney is low in oxygen or its volume is low. These both are conditions which stimulate our fibroblast-like cells in the upper medulla and cortex to stimulate the erythropoietin. Erythropoietin in turn comes into the bone. Here it stimulates the homeopoietic stem cells. Homeopoietic stem cells to stimulate the production of RBCs from proerythroblast. As I told you in last video, proerythroblast to differentiate into the mature RBCs. So this bone marrow where hematopoietic stem cells are present, these hematopoietic stem cells stimulate the RBC's production from proerythroblast. Now, how this anemia or hypoxia leads towards the erythropoietin production. First of all, we will have to study that how this erythropoietin is produced to stimulate the RBC's production in case of renal hypoxia. So whenever there is renal hypoxia, means there is low oxygen or low volume blood coming towards our kidney. It stimulates the production of hypoxia inducible factor 1. This hypoxia inducible factor 1 is transcribed to hypoxia inducible genes and erythropoietin. This causes the transcription of both of these. Now this hypoxia inducible factor 1 combines with the erythropoietin gene, where in erythropoietin gene this hypoxia inducible factor combined. This hypoxia inducible factor 1 is combined with this factor with this site in the erythropoietin gene. This site is called hypoxia response element. So HAF in erythropoietin gene combined with her hypoxia response element, and then produces the messenger RNA. Messenger RNA led towards the production of erythropoietin. When there is increase in erythropoietin production, it stimulates our bone marrow to produce the RBCs from hematopoietic stem cells, and our RBCs volume increases to compensate the anemia or hypoxia conditions. So now we will study this. Erythropoietin is produced mainly through the kidneys. It's about 90%. Mainly the erythropoietin is produced, 90% erythropoietin is produced from kidneys. The fibroblastic epithelial cells are present in upper medulla and cortex, which induces the production of erythropoietin hormone. Remaining 10% is produced mainly by the liver. In the prenatal life, it's mainly by the liver, and in adult, it's only about 10%. So only 10% erythropoietin is produced here. So one can imagine that if we will remove our kidneys from body, there can be a huge decrease in the erythropoietin hormone, and if there is less erythropoietin, then there will be less RBCs production and less oxygen in turn in our body, less hyperventilation, less ventilation and less oxygen inside our body's tissue. So these were the conditions. What causes the RBCs production? These were the factors. Now, how these causes the stimulation through erythropoietin? What is erythropoietin? I will explain. From where erythropoietin is produced, how erythropoietin is produced, and how much erythropoietin is produced. All these questions are solved here. Now, obviously renal hypoxia is the main factor that induces the erythropoietin production, but there can be some non-renal sources. What can be the non-renal sources? That epinephrine, non-epinephrine, and prostaglandins in our body, which senses the hypoxia wherever in our body, they come towards they stimulate the EPO production inside the kidneys, which in turn causes the production of RBCs and in turn the RBC production.